to move from tragedy, whatever all the negative stories are about Shaun John Combs, P Diddy, P Love, all of that, right? The dragon of Cassie Ventura, all of that, all the supposed parties, which the defense is going to pick apart. And so, well, how do you know? How do you know this is a freak off? Didn't you go there voluntarily? Blah, blah, blah. But you got to move that needle from tragedy to comedy. So all you got to do is get your people. You got to get Mark Garagos, go out to dinner with Jimmy Kimmel's. He's a talk show, chat show host. Take the writers out. They're all in LA. Take the writers out to a big dinner at the local watering hole. Buy them dinner and say, hey, can you put a skit together in the monologue and let Jimmy Kimmel make a big joke about the trial, about P. Diddy? You guys are brilliant. You're genius. And then start getting your street team together and creating memes and putting them on TikTok and creating little videos. And then the needle is moving from tragedy to comedy. And by the time the trial is decided, you got one free Shaun John Combs. You like it? Now, that's not what I want to see. I'm just trying to be real here. Okay? I'm just putting my mind in the head of a Loyola trained attorney who has centuries of figuring out ways how to parse the truth, how to tell people that up and is down and black is white, and that sex abuse is love. That's who I'm trying to. Yeah.
Wouldn't a victory for Diddy to have some kind of short sentence to offset his back time? He has to plead guilty to something to keep the prosecutors happy, and then he doesn't have to serve much more prison time, as opposed to just complete freedom, getting found innocent on all charges. Don't you think there's going to have to be some kind of compromise, or do you think because he's gone to trial there is no compromise?
There's going to be some token time because the prosecution, I believe, has a very weak case. Most of it's built on hearsay. And all the defense has to do is say, hey, listen, what about Daddy? What about James Comey? They don't have to say that. They can hire their street team to put that up on TikTok or to put it into monologues for comedians or send them out to the Laugh Factory and do monologues and making the big joke. Right. So there's going to have to be, in order for, it's going to be a face-saving maneuver, but there'll be a wrist slap. But Shaun John Combs is not going to go to prison in the long term, because at the same time, the people who are behind Shaun John Combs are looking beyond the event horizon. They're already I'm thinking, this is what I would do. If Professor Hamamoto, cultural forensics, was a trial consultant, and by the way, it's all about rebranding. It's about branding. As a cliche as that sounds, it's about branding, and that's the whole history of Shaun John Combs. It's about branding and rebranding, right? All his goods made in China, right? All his gear, which I've never seen anybody wear. I see all the stuff used at the closeout stores, right? Because I don't think
What about his courtroom appearance? Is that a form of branding? The white hair and
absolutely, it comes right out of the Leslie Eberson, Lyle, and Eric Menendez sincerity sweater outfit, right? Because people, you like that? Shaun, I'm in the wrong line of work. Why did I go into the education field and live like I've had the 3 vows, poverty, chastity, and obedience. I'm like a Jesuit myself, especially I could have been a trial consultant, but it's not too late. You know where to hit me if you need some help for your people. Hit up Professor Hamamoto's cultural forensics, and we'll talk about my fee schedule. But anyway,
you can be anything you want on my channel, on your channel.
Yeah, I know. And you know what? Shaun John Combs proved to anybody that you can be. If you say you are this, that, or the other, people will buy into it. Because, and this is one of the points I wanted to make, we are dealing with the reptilian brain. You want to get the jury, because the public's already there. You want them not to think you want to get them to react. So all you need is not 2 angry men or 12 angry jurors. You need 2 passive-aggressive, middle-aged, divorced Black women in order to be on that jury, and he's going to walk. Because this is not denigrating them on a racial bad. This is a human deal. The reptile brain is a universal, and there's tons of research on it. I'm not just talking through my you-know-what. I'm talking heavy behavioral, social science. If people want to dumb down, it's not really dumb down. It's because people, your audience are readers, so they want references. Check this book out. It's a multi-mega.
Yeah.
You have this one?
Read it. I've read that.
There you go. Yeah. Okay, it just tells you the everyday influence that we're bombarded with, but you could use these principles in your own everyday life. Shaun John Combs knew this from the street. Plus, his handlers were instructing him all the way down the line. Clive Davis, all the confidence men that he ran with. Plus, it's transgenerational through his father, his milieu of gangsters. These are hustlers. The Hustlers is all about influence. Oh, by the way,
so Corinne, go on.
This is another reference. I found it. I was cleaning out my storage unit. It's about 2010, 2011 published, called The Big Payback. It's the history. There's tons of references to Shaun John Combs, P. Diddy in this book, if you want a general history. But this is the social psychology that the defense team, Teeny Garagos, has to overcome. She has to overcome the public sentiment of the big payback. Because most of the public now is thinking that, hey, P. Diddy had a champagne lifestyle. He got to go to all the mansion parties that only he could dream about. So he's getting his comeuppance. He's getting the big payback. So they have to move that needle from the big payback to Shaun John Combs, the repentant. Because Americans love stories of repentance and salvation. We want redemption. We want the Shawshank redemption. So his people should already be setting up the foundations for the Shaun John Combs home for abused kitty cats, right? Or the research center at Yale University for traumatic child experiences, something like that. Right, we'll come up with some. Just hit me up, and your consultant
Corinne's
will
asking.
Yes.
Corinne's asking about access to her collar in prison, or is he letting himself look like an old man? So, Corinne, I remember one day I was going to court with Wild Man and Wild Woman, and the Wild Woman showed up with her hair every color of the rainbow, and I later found out how she did that in the county jail, and they used Kool-Aid powder to create these colors in the hair.
Yeah, I had a friend whose teenage daughter dyed her dog pink using Jell-O mix.
Wow.
Yeah, and I walked around with that dog pink, and I felt so self-conscious walking that dog around because, I think it would scare the parents.
Yeah.
By the way, the gray hair stuff, I included a graphic here. It's a classic picture from a set of stories, 19th century, by a guy named Joel Chandler Harris. And this character is known as Uncle Remis. Can you put that up there? Or is it considered racist? Uncle Remis.
If in doubt, leave it out. Let's
okay, but this is the history. This culture. This is what's in our epigenetics. This is in the reptilian brain. But Uncle Remis is an older, respectable black man with gray hair. So Shaun John Combs is playing it perfectly. He's letting the gray come out. Plus, he's wearing the sincerity sweater. He's dropped the the ear studs and all that. All the gangster wear, that's out the window. He's got to be Uncle Remis. He's got to be like Morgan Freeman. All right. Now I'm just telling you objectively. I'm talking about winning. I'm not talking about about racism or hurting but someone's feelings or being butthurt. I'm talking about University of Loyola Law School SOJ tactics to win. Play the Uncle Remis card. And if you got two passive aggressive black women on the jury, they're going to know what they're playing. It's a semiotics. It's branding. By the way, speaking of brand, I should mention, yeah, that movie, by the way, has been banned. If you have a copy, if you have a collector's item, that was a Disney movie called Song of the South. And it was banned because black people said, we do not like to be portrayed as Uncle Remis. But you know what? It's backfiring on you because now you need Uncle Remis to spring Puff Daddy. So you better play your Uncle Remis card because it's about winning. Okay, speaking of branding, okay, Teeny Garagos, the lead, well, I don't know if she's the lead attorney, but she's one of the principal attorneys for the defense team. She is married to an expert in, guess what? Product branding. That's his thing. So that's her hidden weapon. She knows all about branding. So you can bet your bottom dollar that they're in the process of rebranding Shaun John Combs as we speak. His name is Krishna Swami. That's her husband, her hubby. He's big in her. He's trying to, right? So he's in that world. And the perception on the defense team is to rebrand P. Diddy from this predator, quote unquote, to someone who's a philanthropist. Wow, that's so obvious. He's got to give some money away. He's going to come out better for this, right? He's going to go through this trial, and he's going to find Jesus. By the way, isn't he Roman Catholic too? Check me on this, people, but I think Shaun John Combs is raised as a Roman Catholic. That's another hidden card. That's a wild card that could be played here. Because remember, there's a distinction between sin and crime.
Because we're running out of time, Professor, could we get your thoughts on the death of Virginia?
Well, I do believe that her death, and I'm not going to speculate as to whether it was by her own hand or from external forces. I have my own ideas privately. Whatever the case is, that she made a very important contribution at great sacrifice to bringing out this whole world that most of us are oblivious to. We're just living our everyday lives, and all of a sudden we find out that there are some dark corners of our political world that were illuminated by one Virginia Roberts or Virginia GIUFFRE. So we owe her a huge debt of gratitude for her sacrifice in that area. And hopefully that'll embolden others to come forth with their stories. And hopefully it won't degenerate to some sort of litigation fest led by people such as, well, maybe I shouldn't mention his name or he's going to sue me. It doesn't matter. I don't have any money. Tony Busby, right? Isn't that his career? That's his gig. So I'd like to leave that on that level of appreciation and honor her memory through her sacrifice.
Oh, well said. We've got a few questions have come in. So let me start to put these questions to you. So in the Diddy trial, does it only take one to declare a mistrial? That's the first question.
I believe so. That's why I'm saying you need two passive-aggressive black women on the trial, because one of them will talk to the other. If it's only one, then they're by themselves. But if there's two, they can mutually reinforce, and out of the two, only one needs to jury nullify.
Anna wants to know, is Diddy an agency construct after all?
Well, he's a self-construct. He's the master of branding with all his little schemes and scams and talents, right? Musicians and whatnot. But beyond him, yeah, we know there's Clive Davis, and there are people above Clive Davis. I did a talk on this months ago when the story was first breaking. I always thought that Diddy was more of a manifestation.
Did the grand jury say anything about the AR-15 with the removed serial rifles, 2 each on his property found during the search warrant? Well, he wasn't he was charged with that, wasn't he?
That I don't know. I mean, wouldn't surprise me, but I don't know if that would be admitted into the evidence. That's up to the defense to figure out.
Do we think if they play the video of Cassie in the courtroom, that will have a big sway on the trial outcome? I still struggle to get through that video. It changed my perspective on him too.
They're going to play that multiple times, and if that's the best that the prosecution has, right, to affect the reptilian brain, then they're going to lose. Because you can pick apart any video. Think the JFK assassination. How many times has the average person seen the sequence led up to the assassination? Right, and it's called, by the way, it's in the literature, and this is what the Garagos team should bring out. Teeny Garagos, right? I'm your Ronin for hire. I'm the masterless samurai. I'm for hire here, so I'm going to lay out something for you that's very important. It's called the Rashomon effect. Rashomon. It's a classic Japanese film, award-winning, by Kurosawa Akira, which tells the same story 3 or 4 times from different perspectives. It's the same objective crime, but it's all different depending. It's retold 4 or 5. George Lucas, all the great Martin Scorsese, all the directors we know and love worship that film. It's a classic. But what it is talks about the flawed nature of human perception and epistemology of knowledge. So if they can introduce, the defense team, introduce the Rashomon effect, and there's lots of literature, and that's something that the defense should bring out. They should bring in the experts, right, the PhDs and the MDs who have expertise in this area to testify about the Rashomon effect and inject the little grain of the seed of doubt in the minds of the juror or the jury. And policemen know this. They take a report on an accident. They have 3 or 4 eyewitnesses, and 3 or 4 of them have different stories of the same automobile accident. That's called the Rashomon effect. Use it.
Memory is malleable, folks. So, Corinne, did you hear Garagos Jr. say on Daddy-O's podcast that there are no videos and no minors?
I did not see that. There is some question about the authenticity of the video. Whether it's even some even said it's AI. You can throw all kinds of stuff out there to prejudice the minds of the audience there, and that's what I would do. I would say the veracity of the video itself is questionable, and all you have to do is introduce a grain of doubt in the mind of one juror. It's just one.
Pearl wants to know, I'm confused by what an actual informant does. Are these people informants and left alone because they have blackmail info on the police, CIA, FBI?
Well, informants operate on several different levels. Some of them are college students that the cops will bust at marijuana drug parties so that they can use them and scare them into getting a larger picture of the master distribution sequence. And they're used cynically, quite cynically by the police. And that's something that the defense can attack. What are the motivation? Policing itself? What is policing? What is detective work? What is informant? Can you trust an informant? Doubt, doubt, doubt. Introduce doubt at every step of the way.
And a lot of these informants are used by the police, and sometimes they get killed for being informants, and the police don't give a crap. It's a terrible system. So,
Yeah.
Pam, do you think that Diddy will take the fall, or will he give up the names of the others involved?
I think Sean John Combs is going to stand up. Yeah, he's not going to give anything up. Yeah, because he comes from, that's his heritage, coming from his father and his milieu. He's a stand up, and he won't need to anyway, because remember, the prosecution is on his side. The prosecution is more concerned with keeping James Comey free from indictment. Their strategy is containment. So if they can cut a deal with Sean John Combs' people, he won't have to give up any names, and they'll just let the public come forward with names. Not even necessary.
Interesting. Bailey, you don't honestly think Diddy will walk with all these lawsuits and have a normal life again?
Well, that's a different question. He can be hit with all these civil lawsuits, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a criminal trial right now. Right? O.J. Simpson walked, yes, but then he was tried again in the civil courts and he lost. But even then, he still did not make reparations to the victims of his crime. So the civil and the criminal are related, but they're different. Will he live a normal life again? Probably not. But you know what? If he plays it right, if he's really the true king, the master of branding, he'll live a better life. Not normal, a better life, because he will be Sean John Combs, right? His name was Saul, but now it's Paul, right? That's going to be the rap. Write that in your little rap book, ladies and gentlemen. He once was Saul, but now he Paul, right? It's conversion. We love it.
Has victim number 3 showed up yet?
Who would that be? I don't know. Like the number machine. I heard some of them are dropping out. Right, some of the witnesses are starting to drop. And by the way, witness. What is a witness? And can witnesses be gotten to? Yeah, the answer is yes. They could be paid off. They can be silenced through other means we don't need to go into. And same with the jury.
It says here that victim number 3 is set to back out, but they're bringing in a victim number 5. All right, so next question. What could Diddy or any of these particular assets possibly have been providing all these years in order to let him continue this vile behavior 30 years ago? Look at the Manson family, how long they were allowed to go and do things. As long as they are supplying the handlers the goods, they're allowed to do anything they want, pretty much. They get arrested, they get a pass.
Mm-hmm. They miraculously seem to escape the long arm of the law. And this is true, we know about the Manson family, but there are these quote-unquote so-called serial killers. Part of my argument in my recent talk, and I've held this belief for a long time, is that most of those serial killers there are state-supported. Right? People like Ted Bundy was always escaping from prison. He went from coast to coast. Right? And that's one way of cleaning up witnesses or payback, revenge. So, it was a serial killer. It was a one-off. But actually, they are state-supported Hashashins.
Same with all these credible terrorist plots. When you look into them, there's some idiot who's mouthed off, and then the informants have snitched the idiot out, and then the feds have come in, sold him some bomb parts, made headline news, got the kudos, and told the public, we've just saved all these lives.
And by the way, please increase our budget.
Yep.
And let's build more prisons.
Will Trump pardon help Diddy if he goes to prison? I hear Ghislaine has asked him if she can spend the rest of her sentence. Ghislaine's trying to get a pardon, isn't she, from Trump?
It could
Maxwell.
happen. We don't know. Yeah. It'll tell
Well,
us a lot, though, if she does manage to pull that off.
That would be a tragedy. Do you think Mariah Carey could be allegedly involved? It could be subpoenaed. I think J-Lo could be subpoenaed.
Yeah, I think that's what the questioner might be thinking of, J-Lo, because she was Sean John Combs. I don't know what he was calling himself back then. That was his main woman back then.
She was smuggling the guns in.
Yes.
Right, let me see. I'm trying to pick. We've got 2 minutes. Professor, are you an INFJ personality type? Do you know? Because you see patterns. In my opinion, yes.
I don't know what INF stands for, but I'm very good at that.
Have you done the Myers-Briggs test on yourself yet?
No, I try to stay away from standardized testing at all costs. It goes back to my childhood, filling out little squares with a number 2 pencil.
Yeah, you've been asked, have you got any thoughts on the Madeleine McCann case?
Oh man, that is so complex. That's another one I've been following fairly closely. I think the person that needs a person of interest, he's dead, unfortunately, but the person of interest to me is Lucian Freud.
Oh.
Yeah, who was living in the area and reached out to the McCanns and inviting them for dinner. Because as you know, he was a personality in Britain, right? In cooking, cuisine. And of course he was related to a grandfather, Sigmund Freud. So it's kind of perverse. It's kind of a Hannibal Lecter type of gesture, don't you think?
Definitely.
Yeah, moving into that. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
We're going to have to, I'm just checking if Chris Todd is in the other studio right now. But while I do so, Professor, thanks for coming on. And can you tell the viewers what they can look forward to on your channel in the coming days, please?
Well, most immediately and tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific, a daylight time, we have the one and only Leo Zagami, who's talking about Volume 12, Confessions of an Illuminati. And this is the capstone of his multi-volume series. I don't know what he's going to go into next, but I'm excited to learn about it tomorrow. I'll ask him. And this is where he synthesizes it and puts it all together. And quite conveniently, the Pope died. So we'll have a lot to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. And beyond that, I don't know. I look for patterns everywhere. So I'll be back in subsequent weeks talking about any number of fascinating examples of human behavior.
And there's tons of unanswered questions. So please go over to the professor's channel. Link is in the live chat right now. And you can hound him in his comments section with your unanswered questions in exchange for a subscription. So stay tuned, viewers. We're going over to Chris Todd on McCann. And this video should transfer you over. Huge thank you to the professor. And hope to see you soon, my friend. You take care. Cheerio.